So we've got a question in from Darcy on Instagram. She said, thoughts on the Arsenal versus Bayern game potentially moving from the Emirates. So there's quite a bit of context to this, so please bear with me while we try and explain. I mean, you'll probably be very much aware anyway. It's been all over the news. Arsenal men's team have been drawn to play at home in the quarter-final of the Carabao Cup on Wednesday the 18th of December. Spurs have also been drawn at home, so the games have had to be put on separate nights to avoid policing issues. Arsenal women were due to play Bayern Munich at the Emirates that night. So with few choices for different dates for the men's fixtures, Arsenal have taken the decision to host the game at Bayern away from the Emirates.
We also have to factor in that there is a whole thing about moving the day either before or after, and that I think Palace and Arsenal men's teams were then playing on either the Sunday or the Saturday, so then they had 48 hours between games, and that wouldn't work either. So that's also another element, I think.
Yes, and Bayern refused to have the date changed.
Well, but also they can't really, because it is the last game of the group stages, so they have to be played at the same time.
Just to clarify, not a criticism of Bayern.
No,
just a fact. Do we feel this is quite a disappointing move for a club that kind of promotes itself as a one club mentality? Do we feel it was a missed opportunity really to kind of promote the women's side for once and take priority over the men's fixture?
Well, firstly, it's not potentially moving. It is. They've said, right. So
sorry, I should have used more.
No, but I think
aggressive language there.
No, but I think there's two things. I think you can be disappointed, and I am, but you can also recognise that it is a very difficult and pretty unforeseen situation, because it's not simply a case of we've qualified. There are other options, but we're not going to take them. There's a number of different factors that has meant moving the men's game is difficult. I think what I found most frustrating was that once it happened, the immediate decision was to move the problem to the women's team.
Yeah, for sure.
So actually, this is a problem for the men's team that has happened, because the game is, has been in the calendar since September or so. They've sold, I think, over 9,000 tickets is what I've heard. I could be wrong, but that's what I've heard. But, maybe they did spend a couple of hours looking at options for the men's team. But the immediate thing was kind of like, right, we'll move the women's team and then they can figure it out, because now we can just not have a problem for the men's team. And I think that's the frustration. But you have to respect the fact that it is a very difficult situation, because, if you look at the Manchester United-Chelsea game, that was different. When it got postponed and, the Champions League, etc., etc. I do think that was different, because there was a bit of foresight that could have been used, that could have required having a backup plan. There was a number of ways that could have been avoided. This is quite tricky due to a number of different reasons, and that makes it hard. It also could be Arsenal women's most important match.
Yeah, for sure.
Potentially their qualification could rest on this fixture. It's a very, very tough fixture. Having a home game is very valuable for them. And now they're probably going to be playing at a different ground that isn't their home ground, and they then just lose that little bit of advantage against arguably the toughest team in their group.
100%. I know there was rumours banded around Wembley being used for the fixture, but I think that's been knocked on its head as well. I do think this would have been kind of a real landmark kind of thing for Arsenal to have done, to prioritise the women's team. I appreciate from a commercial perspective, there probably is some, there's a lot of considerations you have to take in terms of the broadcasters, like where the match can be shown, kind of, maybe in the backlash from the men's fans. I don't know, the 9,000 tickets sold isn't going to be equivalent to what the men's would sell.
That was 9,000 so far.
Yeah, for sure. But it's probably maybe not going to reach the levels that you'd expect for the men's fixture.
You don't know.
You don't know that for certain.
Remember
100%.
Bayern last time, and I appreciate it was a semi-final.
For sure.
Sell out.
Just playing devil's advocate.
Sure.
Completely under. But yeah, I do think that would have been, for a club that is kind of at the forefront of, making decisions that are very much with the priority of the women's team in mind, and the collaboration between the men's and women's teams. I do think that this was a lost opportunity to do that. And I think people are very, very upset by it, and rightly bloody so.